Welcome to episode 4 of Homeschool, First Time Homebuyers with Gretchen Farrell. Hi guys, it's Gretchen Farrell. Welcome to Homeschooled. I have been promising this First Time Homebuyers series for so long, and we're going to start this morning with one of my very favorite lenders, Molly Manley, and she's going to be talking to us about how much money do you actually need to get into a house. I was able to sit down with Molly this morning, and she was able to answer some questions for me, and I hope you guys love it as much as I do. So here we go. Okay, so let's get started because I don't want to keep you forever. And Molly, thank you for coming on to do an edition of Homeschooled with me. So Molly works for Streamline, and Streamline is Weston Maine's in-house lender. So Molly is super, super special to us. Molly is a mama, and she is a wife, and she has the best shoe collection I've ever seen in my life. And her mom was a chef, and she's a total foodie. So if you need to know about Colorado restaurants, Molly's your girl. But more importantly, today we're going to talk about Molly knows everything about home loans. And Molly, how long have you been doing mortgages?
So I have been doing mortgages 8 years now.
Oh my gosh. So conventional, FHA, blah, 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 all of it.
All the things, So from first-time home buying to like multiple property owners.
Awesome. So hopefully you get to see Molly a lot in my homeschool series. So Molly, this is what I wanted to talk to you about. So I have been doing a ton of open houses lately. And you know that first-time home buyers are a total passion of mine, especially with my teaching background. And I will tell you, probably the biggest number of people that come into my open houses are neighbors who are paying rent. Right? So I just did this awesome, our friend Janelle's open last week at Harvey Park. So many renters came in and they're like, we are tired of paying $2,500, $2,000 a month. We want to buy a house. And they have no idea. What do I even need? Where do I even start? So that's why I really wanted to invite you, Molly. Really, we're talking today about first-time home buyers. And I'm wondering if you can tell us just like, not specifics, but if someone were to start thinking about, I want to transition from renting to owning, how much money do they actually need in their pocket? Because I think a lot of people think you need 20% down, and that's not true, right?
No, I mean, that's not true at all. And what's interesting is Colorado specifically, we really have a lot of programs. So if people make under $94,000 annually, I've gotten people into homes I've even had people just come $1,000 to $2,000 total cost out of pocket.
How can that even happen when they need, typically, don't they need 3% down for traditional? Yes.
Right. So there are 3% down programs, and that what we do is we can couple that with a down payment assistance program. And I think that people shy away from down payment assistance because they think that's really truly only for low income people. But Colorado has various levels of down payment assistance. So they'll actually help you cover the down payment, and you just need to bring the closing costs. Okay. Now, the closing costs will often range somewhere in the ballpark of like $7,000 to $8,000 in total. So if we find that we are a little short on cash when we put in offers, then sometimes we'll see if the seller can help pay some of those closing costs. And that's not something we can get every time, but if we know that we need it, it is an option.
Right. So Molly, in Colorado, I read that closing costs can average anywhere from 2 to 5%. Is there a general rule in Colorado? Is it around 2, or when you say $7,000 to $8,000, would that be around like that? I think of entry level in Colorado now around $350,000 to $400,000. Is that kind of feeling too?
Yeah. So I think that we average around 2%. I mean, sometimes we might even see it shy of that. Our property taxes aren't really very high.
Right.
And I will tell you, it's a pretty funny thing, but like there are so many options too. Like when I bought my first house, I pulled $15,000 on my 401k. And I paid it back over 5 years. It cost me next to nothing.
Right.
I actually ended up paying it back much quicker than that, but that was how it was set up.
So and you're paying it back to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I didn't have to pay taxes on it because you're allowed to do that for a home. And I think that that's something too, that a lot of people all have a pretty deep dive into, like, yes, I understand that that's your retirement, but so is your home. Right? Like we really want to say, like, from a return on investment pulling that 15K out of my 401k, I saw a huge return on investment because I was able to buy my house at the right time. And for a lot of our first time home buyers, we hear that rates are higher and they really shy away from it. And what's most important to know is that as soon as rates go down, people are going to come back out of the woodwork, right? Like right now is a great time for a first time buyer. And then what we're doing on our side is we're offering anybody that closes this year, we'll do a free refinance so that they can get into the house now. And when they do have the opportunity, we'll refinance the house into the lower interest rate.
Right.
We really want to focus on that with first time buyers because last year we were struggling to see any of them get into a house
because it was so competitive. Right.
It was so competitive unless you had a large down payment, right? And you could compete with these people that were selling and coming with $150,000. It's such an excellent time. I mean, in February, I think every buyer I closed outside of one was a first time buyer.
Molly, that's so important to hear you say that. And thank you for that. And that's really why I wanted to come on now.
Yeah.
What we're seeing in the market, we are seeing that people want move-in ready homes. So this was a statistic. We know that our average home price in Colorado right now, the Denver Metro, is $730,000 with 49 days on market. But this is what I'm seeing, Molly, in my open houses and in the market right now. If a home is move-in ready, you will see people jumping on it. In fact, maybe even a little bit of price, competitive market again. However, if a property is sitting or takes a decrease, if they take a price decrease, then you are in a position to negotiate. Yes. And so I wanted you to talk to us a little bit about a 2-1 buy down, because I know it's such a great option that so many people are taking advantage of right now. And it sounds a little voodoo-y. I mean, I remember when in the 90s, when people were doing these arms and then they readjusted and then everybody got in trouble. And I really want people to feel comfortable. Molly and I are going to take care of you. Like I'm a kindergarten teacher. Like we're never going to get you into something that's so scary. But can you explain to us what a 2-1 buy down is, since sellers are sitting on so much equity, and how that works?
Yeah. So a 2-1 buy down is where, well, let's take, for example, that we had an interest rate of a 6.5, and that was our 30-year locked interest rate. As a client, a buyer needs to qualify for that rate, which means they need to meet the criteria from the debt to income perspective. So we know that it's an okay investment for them, right? We're not going to put them into a bad place. But then what we do is we ask the seller to pay a temporary buy down over the first 2 years. So that 6.5 interest rate in the first year would be a 4.5. And in that second year, it would be a 5.5. And over the course of 2 years, I mean, we see people saving between, let's just say, like $10,000 to $15,000, depending on the loan. And what's interesting about it, or most interesting to me, is I think that a lot of people have really shied away also because they think, well, if I refinance within that 2 years, that money goes away. And that's not true. If we refinance within that 2 years and we haven't used all of that money, it's almost like the seller creates a savings account for the client.
Like an escrow account, like a separate escrow.
It's just like an escrow. So it's like, if you're going to save $500 a month, every month you're going to make your mortgage payment and they're going to pull $500 out of that account. You'll make your mortgage payment, they'll pull $500. Whatever's in that account when you refi, that money can be applied towards the principal.
And Molly, is there any kind of you don't have to take a penalty, and there's no amount of time you have to wait if you refi a 2-1, right? Right. Because we're not expecting these 7 and 6.5s forever, are we, Molly?
No. And really, I mean, if we look over the course of years, I mean, we could see that in 12 to 24 months, most people think like we're going to be refinancing. I don't work in futures. I don't have a crystal ball, but it's highly likely that that's going to be the case. And again, when that happens, even when we saw interest rates, we had a moment in January where rates kind of went back into the high 5s again. And applications were coming in like crazy because already people were like, they had kind of gotten used to these rates in the 6s. And then all of a sudden we were in the 5s and things explode because it's a lot of, it's a good amount of savings. But I think that's the main goal, is that we really just watch it. We send out weekly reports, and really honestly, we have our computer set up so that it'll alert us. Like, we'll know when it's time to refi.
Right. Well, Molly, I do want to ask you this. Would people traditionally, like if you were traditionally going to buy a house, 3% down. So if it's a $400,000 house, that's $12,000, 2% closing costs, would $20,000, and then you have your inspection and appraisal, would $20,000 get you into a traditional $400,000?
Yeah. So I think even from the education piece of just having the conversation, understanding what it would look like. I mean, renting, it's just, we don't create wealth that way. Unfortunately, it's just money that's going into somebody else's pocket. The last thing I'll say, and this isn't going to be true for everyone, but I cannot tell you how many times I have had families where when parents or someone here, we just need to cover closing costs. Like if we do a down payment assistance or something, it's really common that they'll come in and say, oh, well, I have $10,000. I never would have thought you could buy a home for $10,000, right? So we see that, and not everybody will have, it is, but it happens all the time of like, it can be a gift. Like it could be a gift from a family, like from a parent, grandparents, things like that. And a lot of them have it in retirement. It's just, they never realize that it's like, who doesn't want everybody in their family to own a home?
Right.
That's the dream.
How can we get them in that first thing, whether it's a duplex or a little townhouse or a little something that we fix up, but just that very first thing, because it's definitely a lot trickier here in the Denver metro. Being a native, I know, but that's something that's on all of our parent minds, our grandparent minds. We're thinking about these kids, and that is a great point, that a gift is a perfect way to use that. The moral of the story is, if this is something you're thinking about, you want to know how to get out of renting, call us and let us explore it with you. Let's look at all your options. And I just want you to know, you don't have to put 20% down on a house, and it's not impossible. Molly does this all the time.
Right. And it just is a conversation, right? And never shy away from saying, what would it look like?
Absolutely.
Or, I'm going to graduate in 6 months. What would it look like? It's a good thing to start to line it up. We have people that come and they don't have a credit card. That's okay. I know which ones to go get. Like, I've had people that I work with them for 2 years before they buy a house. But the point is you have to know what the plan is.
Absolutely. And we say that all the time, whether it's next month or whether it's next year or whether it's 2 years.
Right.
It's on whenever you're ready. We're ready for you.
That's right. Right.
Okay. Awesome. Well, Molly, I'm not going to take any more of your time up, but I'm so grateful to you.
I'm grateful to you too.
And I know this is really important for everybody else. So thanks for coming on Homeschooled, and we'll talk to you soon, Molly.
Okay.
So what did you guys think? Wasn't that informative? Not only did we learn about how much money do you typically need traditionally for, say, a $400,000 house. And this slide shows a traditional loan, $400,000, where you're not asking for concessions, 3% down, $12,000. If closing costs are around 2%, $8,000. Inspection, $400 to $700-ish. Appraisal, $800-ish, for a total of $21,500-ish. Now, if you're using first-time homebuyers assistance, or you're able to ask sellers for concessions such as closing costs, it can be much less. We also learned that now is a great time for first-time homebuyers, while buyers are able to still be selective and they're not bidding against each other. So stay tuned. Next week, we're going to do an actual practice where I'm going to pretend to be a first-time home buyer, and you're going to see exactly how much information I have to give up to get some good ranges for what kind of a home I could afford to buy. And so I hope you enjoyed this episode of Homeschool, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.